How I manifested my very first job. This was unconscious manifestation. All I knew at that times were biblical teachings. My father used to say, pray about it once, give it over to the Lord, and never worry about it again. And everything that my father and my mother handled in that matter would come into fruition. So I was in my second year of study, and I was studying something completely unrelated to the type of company that I wanted to work for. I was also studying part time while I was looking for a job. So everyone that would stop me on the street, these aunts and uncles who are wondering, why are you roaming the streets and going to the shops and picking up your little sister from school when your peers are working or your peers are married? They would stop me and ask, so what are you doing with your life now? And I would just say, oh, I'm studying. And when they wanted to know what I was studying, I would just smile, not share that information. And when they asked me what plans I had for work, I would tell them, well, I'm going to work in a bank. That's my story. I stuck to it. I said that to my mom and dad as well, even with them knowing what I was actually studying and how that was completely unrelated to the type of company that I wanted to work with. They never dissuaded me. They just said, okay. But I think my father had heard that story so many times, he was tired of hearing it. And I was also unsuccessful in gaining employment because, firstly, I was still a student. Secondly, I had no experience. My only salvation would have been for somebody to take my CV and give it to either HR or to a hiring manager. So one evening, my father came home from work and he just asked for a copy of my CV and he disappeared. And the next evening, he came to me and said, you have to be at Aunt so-and-so's house at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. You're going to work with her. I didn't ask questions. I trusted him. The next morning, 6 a.m., I was in front of Aunt so-and-so's house, shouting, Aunt so-and-so! And she came out and she just said to me, are you ready for work? And I was totally taken by surprise. And I said, yes, but what am I going to do? Where are we going? And how did I end up in this position, going to work with you? And she just laughed and said, well, your father gave me your CV a few days ago. I gave it to my line manager. My line manager liked it and they would really like to meet you. So she didn't say interview, she said meet. And got onto the bus and we went to her place of employment. It was one of the major banks in my country. The bus dropped us right in front of the door. We went in. I sat with her until about 9 o'clock, just having small talk and watching what she was doing on her screen. I didn't know anything about anything at that time. All I knew was whatever I had learned in high school, what I was learning in my studies, and nothing else. But what I knew is that I wanted to end up in that type of organization. So just before 9 a.m., she walked me upstairs to her line manager, left me there, and we had a very casual chat. We were talking and laughing, and he was just asking me about high school and my current studies and what I wanted to do going forward. And I believe I may have answered all the questions as expected, or maybe he was really just trying to get to know me to see whether I was a good fit. Because immediately, like 30 minutes later, he gave me a piece of paper and said, go to this building, ask for this lady, and she will sort you out. Nothing was discussed in terms of saying, you have a job or this is the package we're offering you or anything. And I remember walking from the floor where I was at, going down 2 or 3 floors, having to walk across a bridge that connected 2 buildings, and then going to wherever this lady was. And I told her whom I was, and she just said, sit down, here's a contract. We have a job offer for you. Can you please read through the contract? And if you're happy with the terms and conditions, please sign, but make sure you slowly read everything line by line. And after you have signed, here is a stack of policies that you need to read through, understand, and sign before you leave this building today, because you are starting work tomorrow. My first view of a contract, I looked at it, and the amount written there looked like $1,000,000. I was so happy. My very first formal income. I took my contract, held it right here, close to my heart, and I went to the lady who had brought me in, didn't say a thing, and all she said to me was, "When do you start?" And I said, "Tomorrow." And she said to me, "You had better go home now and prepare for tomorrow, because work starts at 8 and we'll be taking the same bus. So if you're comfortable, you can come and get me again in the morning and we'll go to the bus together and come to work together." And I left the company, went home, told my mom and dad, who were very happy. My father wasn't surprised. He was a verbal and a vocal believer. My mother, on the other hand, was a very silent believer, but they shared the same values. I remember I'm a student. I don't have corporate clothing. I can't even remember what I was wearing when I went for my initial meeting with the banker, and made a call to my 2 old sisters who were already employed. And that evening, they both came to my parental house, bringing shoes and clothes and bags, and one of them did my hair, and they were so happy for me. And suddenly I had everything that I needed to start my first job. I had everything I needed for the first month of work, and I started work. So the manifestation here was unconscious. I knew what I wanted. In spite of what I was studying, I knew that I wanted to work at a bank. And because I knew so little about a bank, I ended up at getting the job, but not really knowing what I was going to do. I stayed in that position for 3 months. If you like my content, please like, share, subscribe, and let me know which country you are tuning in from, and we will let you know when additional content becomes available. Happy manifesting.